to another episode of Cultivate and Keep. This is Corey, and it's got Jeremy with us. Jeremy, say hi.
What's up?
You guys can thank me.
So we go back and forth on who does the best intro. And
let's just say you're welcome for me doing the intro today.
I tried hard just now, and it was not good.
You tried way too hard, my friend. Anyways, we're glad to have you. Thanks for tuning in and listening to us. You don't really have to tune in. You just have to kind of click play, which is always nice too. But glad to be able to talk, and we're kind of excited to just jump in today. No real announcements or anything like that. So today we want to talk about engagement and getting engaged and sort of the whole engagement period. I think now that we've been married for a while, especially now that you've been married for several months, we can sort of like talk about it. Yeah, we're kind of like far enough removed that it's okay to look back on it and talk about maybe some of the challenges and stuff. I don't know. What was your experience like with being engaged?
Honestly, it was really difficult, and I don't feel like we were prepared for that. Like I think I don't know about you, but for me it was like before getting engaged, like I looked at that time as like a really fun, exciting time, like, you know, fun decisions, like just like a good positive time, like you know you finally found the one you're going to spend your life with. Like it's a great time, which it is. Like it's overall it's good. I just wasn't prepared for like the details. I mean, there's like a lot of decisions, a lot of change, you know, a lot of like late nights, like a lot of planning. And I don't know why, but like, so I found like before we were engaged, anyone that I would talk to about being engaged, I got positive like feedback. Oh, it's great, blah blah blah. And I feel like as soon as like we got like engaged, like, or as soon as we got married, everyone I talked to was like, "Oh, it sucks," and I was like, "Why am I like just now like hearing this like the truth behind it?" You know?
Wait a second.
And to be honest with you, like, I feel like just one person I probably talked to out of like 10 that said it was good. Everyone says it's hard, and so that's kind of why I wanted to do this topic. Because like,
what did I tell you?
I feel like you said it was good.
Really?
I don't remember, but I feel like.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I feel like maybe I did.
Yeah, and then. Yeah, you lied.
I did lie. I did lie for sure. Yeah, so, I mean, I think that's especially being engaged is very like, it's like this cliche, like romanticized idea of, I always thought of it as like, cool, like now we're preparing for marriage. We get to like go, I don't know, cake testing and food testing.
Yeah, exactly. Which is
explore venues.
That's like the vibe it has, which again, that is a part of it. And also, I want to say just off the bat, especially in case my wife listens, just kidding. It wasn't all like bad. It wasn't all hard. No. I guess what I want to communicate today is that I feel like people were not real with me. I guess what it can be like, and I think it just caught us off guard. Like this was a harder season than we expected. But yeah, continue what you're saying. So
maybe we should talk like maybe we can kind of center around this idea of like what to expect in your engagement period.
Late nights. Well, I think while it is exciting, like it is fun. There are cake testing and food testing, like that's all fun. I think it's super easy for like the details and like the stressful part of it to like dominate the experience. I guess for me. I also want to say like we had a short engagement, and so I think for us a few factors that like kind of mixed it up a bit was I think our engagement was 4.5 months, pretty short. I had just bought a business, and so like that was like literally I bought a business, and then like a week later we got engaged, and so like super busy for the business. It was like the busy time of the year, and then I moved out like all within a month, and so it was like a lot going on.
Yeah, I remember that. That was like all like the month of September.
And right? I left my full-time job that the family company I had been at for 6 years, and so there's like a lot of change. Excuse me. So I wanted to add. I think what I would say is like I think like life circumstances will like influence the engagement. Obviously, but for me like it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
So what to expect? So, so I would say if your life is like not in order, like I would say get that in order first before you get engaged. I think looking back at it, if I could have done it differently, I would have like gone through all of that change and then gotten engaged. I think it would have made things easier. Because it just adds to like the details and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I'll say have your life in order.
Well, here's the funny part is that we had a really long engagement,
Yeah.
and our engagement was also pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fine. Like I think we both, after being married and then like realizing how great marriage is, also hard in some ways, but like vastly more enjoyable than being engaged or
Well,
being
okay,
dating.
in our experience, 'cause I feel like,
Yeah, that's
again,
true.
that's another thing that surprised me. Like, I feel like the common advice I got was the first year's really hard. It sucks. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah,
For us, this first year of being married has been like the best time of our
yeah,
relationship, like ever. Like
right.
dating, engaged, like it's the best. But
Yeah,
that's for us.
and so then after being married for a couple months, we looked back on being engaged, and then when our friends were getting engaged, especially like, you know, there was a couple before you, but then you, and then like the more that we kind of looked back on, the more we were like, oh my gosh, like that was horrible, and like there's so many super hard parts about it. So we had we were engaged for a little over a year, so like a year and 3 weeks, I think technically, and that was also a hard part of it.
I could not imagine.
Yeah, dude, that was
I kind
hard.
of just like bit the bullet, like did it all in a short amount of time, but you stretched it out, dude.
Yeah, we did. I mean, originally
There were reasons why, I know, but
yeah,
still.
originally we wanted to get married in November. We got engaged in February, so it'd have been about 8 months. I think that's how it works out, 8 or 9 months, which I feel like is a pretty good time. I think just like a quick tip, I think between like 6 and 8 months is probably like the ideal zone or like time range. 4.5 is a little bit short. A year is definitely long. And so, but because basically it was like timing and then like parents and like financials, like it just was way better to do it in February anyways. And I don't know if I would really go back and change anything, because I don't know if we even could change anything. But again, like we had no idea what to expect. We didn't, we thought we knew what to expect, but we didn't know at all. And it was way harder than we thought it was going to be.
So like what makes it, for you, like what made it hard and what kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Or like what is the hard part about it, I guess?
Yeah. There's a couple different parts about it. I think definitely like the life changes makes it a lot more challenging. We didn't have nearly as many in such a short amount of time. But when we got engaged, we were both still in school, and I was finishing up my last semester of college. And, I mean, actually I'd been planning it, but I landed my internship at the company that I would eventually work for full time, like 2 days before we got engaged. And so I didn't really have anything like lined up. You know, it was like I didn't really even know like what was gonna be happening or like how we were gonna pay for the wedding before like we got engaged. And then 3 months later, I started working full time. And then that was really the only like big change that happened while we were engaged, but still big things, you know. And like I was still living at home, and so like I think it was the day before we got married was when I moved out, and that was a big change too. But having to spend late nights, you know, when we're very far apart. I lived far away. I think it was a big part of it too. Like I lived in Alpine and she lived in El Cajon, and then I worked in downtown, and so it was like driving all the time. I think the main thing that made it difficult for us was there were so many like urgent things that we had to do that we didn't have enough time to like date and to be together and to like kind of literally prepare for being married, like not just like living together and being together, but like marriage itself. Which we were told like, hey, prepare for marriage, like pray for it and with each other, read books, talk with people. We did premarital counseling, which was amazing, probably like the best part of our engagement. But there was just so much going on. It's like a part-time or like a full-time job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like trying to work enough to pay for it and then like planning for it too. I mean, it's insane. It's really overwhelming.
Yeah. One thing I thought about was like I would like say to like a friend, like, getting engaged would be like to like know your bride, like know your future wife and like what she needs during engagement. Like one thing I think I would have done differently is probably be like help a lot more with like the details and like the planning side. So my wife is like a go-getter, like planner, like pretty like strong in her personality, and so and she also like knows what she wants, and so I kind of thought, okay, like she's gonna do most of it, and I just have to like support her and help her. That's kind of what I thought I would, because that was kind of what everyone told me. Oh, like stay out of her way, like just support her. It's kind of like the common advice for like a man in like engagement, and I think that's kind of wrong. Like
definitely
like I would say because I think as like a girl, like they definitely like envision this day more than like a guy would, and so yes, like let them, kind of dream it up and like make the, the big decisions, but like how you support them is more than just like watching them work on a laptop, right? Like, you need to do research too, and like call companies and whatever you can do. And I didn't do a whole lot of that until the very end, so I wish I would have done more of that. Yes, I would say like know your bride, like know what she needs, and then like help her in that way. Because I think like not doing that will create more stress and more issues.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing for us is like knowing now like how Connie will do with like when she has like a lot on her plate. And so I learned like, okay, she doesn't do that well, like she needs help. And so like doing what I can to take things off of her is like that would have benefited us more if I would have done more of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways engagement is like I think it's maybe even supposed to be kind of like a trying thing,
Mm-hmm.
like a trying period, because you really learn like there's a lot of different opinions. You have a lot of outside opinions that makes it hard, and like how do you each handle that individually and then together, and like how that influences the way you think and talk to each other. Another part is like you're going to be like tested, and especially like when the other person feels overwhelmed, either one of you, like how do you deal with that too? Like what happens when you're not on a good foot, and what happens when you're not really sure how to help or what to do. I think for me, it was a big learning experience of like, yes, I need to like support and be there, but also like I need to like lead. You know what I mean? And like, sure, she can like have the vision for the wedding and like plan, but like now this is your time to practice like stepping up and leading. And it was just like, well, you're supposed to kind of think like, cool, I just get to sit back and let me know when and where to show up, and I'll be there.
Well, I mean, that's like what I think we like see and like what we're like told to do.
Yeah.
This last weekend on Friday, I met with a potential bride for our company, and she's getting married at her family's house. So at the family's house, the parents are there. It's her and her fiance, and they're both super friendly. But the whole time, dude, like the fiance was just like sitting down, like drinking like a coffee. Like, literally didn't participate at all. And like the end of the meeting, he was like, there was like a drum set there. He had hopped on the drum set and started playing drums, and just like, so we have to like walk out of the room because he's being loud. Just like he showed zero participation, and it's kind of funny, but like I feel like that's a good picture of like I feel like in our culture, kind of what we're taught and told to do is as the man is to kind of like lay off, like let the girl make the decisions, like when it comes to the wedding day.
Yeah.
And like kind of like you said, I think it's pretty off. Like it shouldn't be that way,
Yeah, and like
there should be more involvement.
Your fiance is gonna want you to be involved, and if you have the like mindset of like, yeah, cool, just I'm gonna chill, I'm gonna lay back and let me know when you need like me to pay for something, is like a really bad place to come from. I think another big part for us too was like when Monique was feeling stressed, or when she needed like, if something needed to be done and like I felt more anxious about it than she did, of like the timing or the payment of it or whatever, you have to learn like how to communicate that with each other of like, hey, so this thing is like due, or like this thing is going to work, or this is over budget. There's like a lot of big decisions that are made in engagement. Like where do you live, and where are you to get married? How much money do you spend? What do you spend the money on? Who's there? Who's involved? Who's not there? Who's not involved? Who do you listen to? And dude, I mean, that's like, it's like a crash course in couple communication. Like all the things were just thrown at you, or just thrown in the fire. I'm like, okay, cool, figure it out. And then like love each other and prepare for marriage. It's like, whoa, like this is a lot, let's slow down.
Dude, I feel like how you just worded it makes total sense. I've been thinking like, why is it so hard? But what you just like said, it like sums it up perfectly. And actually, I think we did pretty darn well. Like thinking, I'm like, oh wow, like
survived.
That is a lot, Dude,
it's a ton.
It's a ton,
One of the things I think about is how long our engagement was, and how you kind of have to play the time. Like you have to know how long you're going to be engaged for. I don't think people realize when they get engaged, maybe how long they have to wait to get married, or how long they have to get married. Also, depending on what kind of wedding you're going to have, I mean, that makes a huge difference. Because, with us being a year, it was definitely too long. Like we didn't even need a year. And so I remember like the first 3 months, it was like, okay, cool. Like there's a couple things, but like we literally can't even do anything until, you know, until like the vendors know, like, and are planning for February 2018. You know what I mean? It's like we literally can't do anything. So then it was like 3 months later, now we're starting to plan. And then like you knock out the big things really quickly. And then you have like 6 months to do like really tiny things. And then because they're tiny, you don't do them right away, or like you're still not sure. And then like the last month was just like a scramble. Because it was like, all the things you didn't think about come in. All the things that finally needed to be decided on come in, like the day of gets decided. And then and like all the things you've also just like been procrastinating on and like putting off, now like you have to do. And then a month turns into like, cool, so like the last 2 days are going to be like rehearsal, and we only have time on like Sunday afternoons and Tuesday nights, so like really we only have like 10 hours to figure this out besides our work schedule. Like, oh my gosh.
That turns into the late nights. Like it's, it's school, schoolwork, whatever, dinner, ministry. Yeah. And then it's from like 9 o'clock until like, midnight, 1 or 2 in the morning. Like seriously, like what you're doing is that. Yeah. Like, I remember that. Like it was crazy. Yeah. I remember we spent like, I think 3 or 4 nights in a row working on the seating chart, and like a couple hours each night. And I was like, dude, like why so much time into a seating chart? Like, you never know.
Yeah, it definitely makes it really hard.
But I wanted to get into, I think we've talked enough about like what made it hard, I guess. But I want to talk about what can make it great. And then I want to talk about a bit more of like preparing for marriage, like during engagement. But I feel like that's probably like a separate episode from this, maybe. But we could probably touch on that a little bit. Yeah. But what can make it great? I think you actually put some of these points down. And I think I'm 0 for 3 on the first 3, to be honest. But the first one you said was the right length. I think we both struck out on that one.
Yeah, definitely.
I think you're right. I would say between like 5 to 8 months. Yeah. For us, it was like the first month was crazy, right? Ton of planning. The middle 2.5 months, 3 months were like pretty chill, and then the last like 5 weeks were just like balls to the wall, like just crazy, all in,
all out,
all in, not
all in. There you go.
Don't make too many. Point number 2. Don't make too many drastic changes at one time.
Definitely struck out there.
I definitely messed that up. I do want to say, and I think we've talked about this before, but I used to like get super anxious about like change and like decisions, and I don't really feel that way anymore. I don't like them. Like I don't feel like I want to like make choices and whatever and have change, but I don't dread it, and it's not like a big deal to me anymore. I think it's because kind of like that idea of like, if you hate public speaking, how to get over it? Well, go public speak. Just go do it 10 times, 100 times, and kind of like with this, like, okay, I hated decision, I hated change, so I just started doing it, and all at once, kind of in a sense, like freed me from that. But it, obviously contributed to.
Definitely, I think that's a big one. Like, there's maybe some common advice of like, you don't have to figure everything out before you're married, and like you don't have to have your whole life put together, and like don't wait until you're 30. Like basically like kind of encouraging like young marriages, or maybe people who don't like feel ready. But I think there is like, you can't like just completely ignore like the kind of be ready, be in the right place in life. It definitely helps, especially if you can spread it out. Again, these are ginormous decisions: who to marry, where to live, the finances part of it too, how you're going to pay for it. I think one of the things that I even realized like was I didn't have all the money saved up to pay for the wedding. And so I was like, okay, well, like this is my salary, and like this is how much I'll make, and that'll be plenty enough since I live from home to pay for it. But you don't realize when you need to pay for things. And then especially with like these giant decisions of like, for you is buying a business and moving out, and then quitting your full-time job, and like especially financially, that puts a ton of stress on like when and how things get paid for. And basically I didn't anticipate it, but every month was like everything I made was going towards something in the wedding, and then it was gone as soon as it was in. You know what I mean? And so try to spread it out. Like these big decisions, like I said, if you can help it, have some of these things figured out. That way you don't have to in the engagement, and you can have more time to literally prepare for the marriage and to date and to be with your fiance.
Yeah. Side note, I would say for your like budget, like on like the category of like miscellaneous, I would pad that a lot. We didn't, and so like the week before we were like, oh crap, like just so many random things we didn't think about that ran up that category a lot. It's kind of like screwed our budget. And also, would say just in general, like expect to pay more than you budget. Like it's a bummer to say that, but I remember being like super disappointed when we like went pretty well over it. And I mean, Connie was really good about like finding deals and cutting stuff and doing what she could, but it adds up. And so I would say expect to go over, and if you don't, great, but like don't think that you're going to stay on budget, because you'll be let down.
Yeah, you will 100% be let down, and you will go over your budget no matter what you set. I mean that's a huge one.
I add that because I remember feeling like, darn it, like I was like frustrated.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have been, because Connie did so good about like doing what she could, But
yeah, definitely
it's kind
have
of
some wiggle
unbeatable.
room.
Like you're just have wiggle room.
Yeah, it's funny that at the Purity conference that Monique and I spoke at, after we gave kind of a little like Q&A talk and went back and forth, they opened it up to questions from the audience, who were a bunch of high school kids, and one of the kids asks, how much was your wedding? It's
really?
it's kind of like a faux pas. I mean, it's not a big deal. Yeah, I mean, we didn't care. I didn't give them the exact number. Basically, I told them like more than we wanted and expected to, and basically told them like we spent everything that we had on our wedding, and it wasn't really expensive. It also wasn't cheap, but it was everything, and that's kind of all you need to know about it. And like, I don't care that he did that. And if he's listening, it's totally fine. Like, I'm not like making fun of him in any way, because it is a legit question too. Like when you're engaged, again, plan to spend more and have some wiggle room. If anything, I mean,
I remember I thought anything above like 10 grand was ridiculous.
I remember you talking about
that talk didn't go very well. Yeah, I was like, that won't get you very far, at least in San Diego.
No, yeah, not at all. Especially with the amount of people that you're gonna have at your wedding.
Dude, we should talk about engagement rings.
Oof, 3-year salary.
That's not true. It's 3 months salary.
3 months.
But even that could be crazy.
I mean, yeah, depending on where you are in life, that could be pretty crazy, or it could be, I mean, on a Foothills intern salary,
you would have been in good shape.
Yeah, I would have been struggling for sure. I was struggling.
Well, no, I mean, you would have had, I don't want to say an excuse, but
that's true. Yeah.
3 months salary.
That's right. Like, this is
$800. Yeah, just kidding. Just kidding.
I mean, not too far off. It was like,
okay, we won't talk about that. What I do want to say is, I think like the man's perspective should be, from my opinion, like, dude, like cherish your fiance, like, make her feel love, like within your means, do what you can to like make her like stoked and like bless her and surprise her with an awesome engagement ring.
Yeah.
At the time, that was not at all my perspective.
Nope, it wasn't.
You probably remember. But like, looking back at it, like, yeah, like within your means, like, don't go crazy, don't be stupid, don't go into debt, like, don't try to impress her, but like bless her, like just make her feel loved and like wanted by you, and that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's sort of a fine line you have to balance there, but like, don't get a ring that she's going to be like disappointed in. You know what I mean? Like, try to figure out like, not what's the minimum you could spend, but like, what would she be really happy with? Maybe go a little bit above that. Get something that you want to be able to give her too. Like, don't just be cheap for the sake of being cheap. Like I said, I mean, be generous with it for her. Not too generous, but be generous.
Getting cold. Okay. So, number 3 you said was only have input from a select group of people.
Yeah.
I did not do that with. I didn't do that with like my whole life, I guess, like business, like everything. But when it came to just like the engagement process, I mean, we didn't really like have a ton of people that were giving us input. So
yeah, but I think that probably helped, right? I mean, could you imagine if you had a bunch of different opinions?
If it was how
my
my personal life was, oh, dude, it would have been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, my parents didn't have really any like arguments or very much input. They were like, cool, that sounds amazing, or let us know how we can help. Her parents were more involved, but also still not super opinionated. I think even like the biggest thing probably was like who to invite and how many people to invite. I think if we could go back again, hindsight's 2020. We're super happy with our wedding. I mean, I freaking loved our wedding, but if I had to do it over again, or if we do, we'll probably do like a 10-year renewal or whatever. We would do it like really small, like 30 or 50 people, private venue, spend money on kind of the things that you want to, but like going from 50 people to 100 pretty much doubles the amount of money you spend. 100 to 150 kind of doubles it. 150 to 200, like you're getting into some serious bucks. And like all that can be the result of just certain people, namely like parents, who want people to be there or like have this vision of what they thought.
Yeah.
But it's like at the end of the day, dude, it's your money, it's your finances, your wedding. You have to be very selective of who you take input from.
Yeah, I think if I was going to do over again, I probably would have had a smaller wedding, which I don't regret it, but if I was going to do it again, like, yeah, probably smaller.
Yeah.
Spend less money, have the ones you really want there. It's more intimate. You talk to more people,
Yeah, it's funny. Now that I've, been married and like had a wedding and also been to a lot of weddings and also been in weddings, my perspective I feel like is so clear now of like the whole day and like what's going on and what to expect. And most like 90% of the people there usually for like a big wedding are like people you're not really close to, and also who are like, it wouldn't really matter if they weren't there. You know what I mean? Like the people that you dance with, that you talk to, are the people that would have been there anyways. And like all the other people are just like out somewhere else doing something else, drinking or eating the food you paid for. It's not like you don't want those people there, but it's like, I don't know. They make a big difference. Yeah, for sure.
The next one was have wiggle room in your budget, which we talked about.
Yeah.
Next one was plan and work on the wedding in focused times. I think that's super, super good to not have like sporadic times of wedding planning. I think we were probably like in the middle on this. Like it was kind of like a bit of both. I think like the beginning and the end of engagement was like all the time working on the wedding, but I think like the middle part of being engaged, we did good. But yeah, I think that's important. I would say like that will come if you have like a clear talk, about expectations. Like, hey, like here's kind of when we're going to do wedding stuff and here's when we're not going to do it. If you don't have that talk, like, well, then it's kind of free game, like whenever you can,
Yeah.
So, well, I think that's good advice because it will easily like bleed into everything, everything turns into wedding stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think if you don't have like a really clear cut time of when you're going to do it, you kind of just do it all the time or like any time. And then when someone starts planning for the wedding or starts to ask you questions, you're going to have to turn into that like wedding planning mode. And then you're like, is this really what we want to be doing right now? Or it's 10 o'clock and we're watching TV, or, it's like the weekend and we're going somewhere and now we're trying to make these big decisions. Like it just helps when you can have that expectation. Something that really worked for us was we did wedding Wednesdays. So like Wednesday night was like our planning night. We did that fairly consistently, I would say, for like several weeks on end. And just having that focus time of like, okay, this is when we're going to meet with vendors. This is when we're going to sit down and figure this out. Like, then we can kind of plan out a little bit of like, this needs to figure out, that needs to figure it out, this needs to figure it out. So like, we'll do this 1 week, the next thing the next week, this other thing the other week. And that like really helps of like having set times to plan too. Of like, again, you're still like living kind of separate lives too. So even though you're probably going to be hanging out all the time, you don't want to be planning all the time. Like you want to have time to date and to like have fun and to read and to go to counseling and do all sorts of other stuff. And if you don't have that set time to focus on the wedding planning, it's just going to be like a huge distraction.
Yeah. I think like the next thing I want to say was like having time to actually plan for a marriage. And you said this, but yeah, having time to like, whether it's meeting with people, reading a book, or just like dreaming about like, what you want your life to look like together, talking about it, I think is important. It's kind of hard. I think this is one of those things that you don't actually know until you do it. Like, because you could be listening right now and not be engaged, and you could be listening thinking like, yeah, okay, I got this. Like that makes sense. But I think it's going to be a lot different when you're actually engaged. Like, like this is kind of one of those things. Like once you're engaged, you'll see like it's a bit different. So, but I think like the more you can talk about what you expect with your spouse, I think will help,
Yeah. I mean, I think I would have spent a lot more time on like praying together, reading together, like trying to kind of early on cultivate those habits of like having that part in each other's lives, learning to lead, meeting with people, going to church consistently. That can also be a thing that's like, maybe we should use this time to plan, or we haven't gone on a date in a while, so let's skip the church. But like, really being intentional about that. And reading books too, like even if they have diagrams. Shout
Shout
out
out
to
to
Kyle
Kyle Moberg.
with his diagram books. It was a good book. I took a little peek at it, but yeah, I mean, really, like, it kind of feels like when you're engaged that, like, preparing for marriage feels like preparing for marriage isn't the same thing as preparing for the wedding. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like,
kind of feel like we're mixing them up, but yeah.
yeah, like they're two very different things. Like the wedding day is an event, it passes, like, and then it goes. Like, honestly, the whole day is going to be a blur, and then you have the rest of your lives together. And sure, we have plenty of time to like work on our marriage, but to go into it prepared, and to have that time to work on it beforehand, I think is like really important, really like under kind of talked about.
Yeah, and I think like that topic right there, I think in itself is like its own topic or episode, because there's a lot in that. Like, how do you prepare for? Well, I think preparing for the wedding day, and then separately like marriage itself. But yeah, one thing I wanted to say was like the week leading up to like before the wedding day. I think it's super important to have like a couple dates or like time like together. I mean, I would say the whole dating process, like to have keep like your date night, keep time that you connect where you don't have wedding talk. But I think like the week before, for sure have time where you can connect, because I think like once like family starts coming in town and like rehearsal dinner and all that, it's just like it's so crazy. Like there is no connection. And I think for us, I think we did have like a date that week of, and it was super good to like connect and just talk and
Yeah, that was my number one advice to our latest friend who got married. It was like a week before. I was like, dude, go on a date, at least one.
Yeah. A good date.
Yeah, a good date. Like, not just like, let's go, Netflix and chill on the couch, but let's like go out and be intentional, dress up, get away from other people, treat yourselves. I would, like, the perfect way I would envision is like a week or two before, have everything like done and planned. That way you can really, like, I don't know, kind of fall in love again and like
that'd
talk
be big
and
time, but
and
it's
date.
not realistic.
Like, it's not realistic, but like try as hard as you can, because if you could, that'd be magical.
Shoot for the moon, okay?
That's right. Shoot for the moon.
Probably won't happen, but
hit something close to it and still be happy. But yeah, I mean, that would be ideal.
Any more thoughts that you have, or anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I think to wrap it all together, like what to expect in engagement, it's probably going to be hard. And expect it to be like financially trying with like your communication, trying spiritually. I think also like that's the time that like you're going to have a lot of like doubts or questions or temptations of like all these things now are going to be like thrown at you. You're going to have to think about these things and like, know that it's not just going to be, I don't know, fun and games and, cake tastings and, going to food, get some food and stuff. And the spiritual part too, like, I think maybe one of the main parts of like what to expect in engagement is you're going to have to prepare for the wedding, but also don't forget to prepare for your marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like we said, you may have heard it here first, but it's probably harder than you think it's going to be. I think if I had to say like one thing, I would say like before you get engaged, talk about what you both expect out of it. What do you think it's going to look like, and basically just prepare for conflicts and disagreements. But I think like if that can be managed and dealt with, which it can be, I think it can be really fun. It can be good, and like it does not have to be dominated by the hard parts, I would say.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't have to be.
Also want to say, kind of to wrap it up, was like, why are you getting engaged? Well, to be married and to live your whole life together, and like that is so great. And so I think anytime like if you're stressed or it's not going well during engagement, like remember like the end result and like why you're doing all this. And I mean, I think that can kind of carry you through it and can be like refreshing reminder. So
yeah, it's a really special time. So make the most of it.
All right, Corey.
Cool.
You know what to do, Daddy.
Yes, I do. Thank you, son. Well, again, guys, thank you for listening. Hit that subscribe button. You can listen on all sorts of platforms like your Apple Podcast app. You can listen online on the website. You can listen on Overcast, Spotify, Breaker. Maybe one day soon I'll create an app for you to be able to download. I think I actually figured it out. I want to do it sometime soon.
Really?
Yeah. Once I've wrapped up some other
slow down. Yeah,
stuff.
Slow down, Corey.
Yeah, I got to learn to pace myself here. But I'm pretty sure we'll have a Cultivate and Keep app by maybe the end of the year. So
that's sweet.
You don't hold me to that, but we'll see. But we love you guys. Feel free to reach out to us anytime on social media. You can email us at cultivateandkeep.com, and we will see you in the next one.